Good morning, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are. Today, we will be discussing a book regarding the TFR or how the population impacts, or the how the population impact happens in China, or what are the impacts of population decline and the rising of a population in the Chinese context. Now, here we have got a book from a Chinese author who happens to be a very well researched guy who has written about the historical context or historical perspective on how the population of the Chinese population, the number of Chinese in the Chinese mainland impact their rising and fall of the Chinese dynasties, different dynasties, and how the population impact their rise and fall. So the author, currently is, I think, in some American university, and he is still writing about the Chinese population decline. So we will be discussing that. Now we have got a guest here, Nina.
Stay to everyone. So yeah, we will be today discussing about how population was originally the strength of China in its economic development, and how the decline of this demography and population is also going to cause a rapid decline as well. Shekhar, you can
Yes,
continue.
thank you, Nina. Yes. So we have to understand that everything in Chinese context has to have some kind of relation with the population of the China, because everything always comes back to population in the Asian context, but here we are only discussing China, so in Chinese context. So we will start reading now. So this is the book. If anyone wants to buy it, this is a Chinese version. So we have a translation here. One second. Yes. So the book starts with the book's name is The Big Power Emptiness. So it is describes the Chinese situation currently. So it is a kind of a paper tiger in a sense. So it looks big, but the ending will not be so good, if we go by his analysis. So initially the author talks about the impact of population and how it impacts the societies as in general term. Then he will come to the specifics of the Chinese context. Now, section 1, chapter 1: population reproduction is human society. There are two basic pillars on which human society relies on for its existence and development. One is population reproduction and the other is material reproduction. The security of politics, economy, national defense, culture, and national psychology all depends on population security. The premise of sustainable social development is that the population itself must continue to develop. A good cook cannot cook without rice. Without the sustainable development of the population, there is no way to talk about the sustainable development of the society, because everything here is trying to say is everything relates back to the population. Because if you have a good amount of population, the economy will automatically rise after some time, even if you don't have a high human development in a sense. But the sheer quantity of the population will itself will have some kind of a growth, even if it is minuscule. And everything comes back to the population, in the sense that the more the population, the more the your cultural strength, because more people will follow your culture. And you can also introduce your culture through these uh, the quantity of your people. You can introduce this culture in other societies also. Now, to ensure that the population does not increase or decrease relative to the previous generation, in theory, a couple only needs to have two children. Yeah, this is your basic. Whenever we are talking about the population, Now we always go back to the TFR section, that we have to have a TFR of 2, so we can replace the parents of the children. So the children can replace their parents. There will be two parents, so two children will replace their parent. Now, however, since some children die before giving birth, and the normal male to female ratio 100 for girls is 102 to 106, developed countries need a total fertility rate of 2.1 to maintain generational population replacement. Total fertility rate, and we call that TFR in short, is an important indicator of demographics, which refers to the average number of children born in each woman during childbearing age. Now, this is important. Childbearing age. This is very important. Assuming that the woman spent their childbearing age at a certain year's age, it can be roughly understood as the number of children a woman has in her life. Now, the earlier you have children, the better it is for the woman, both in the health department. It will be safer for her if she have children around 20 to 25 rather than if she goes beyond 30. If the total fertility rate is higher than the replacement level, there will be population inflation pressure. If it is lower than the replacement level, there will be population decline in the future, usually a lag of 20 to 30 years. So the children that will be born today, they will have impact after 20 to 30 years. For example, the India's population today is not the result of some 5 years back. It is the result of 2000. In the 2000 phase, early 2000, the children born then are the ones that are living here. So that the children born at that time is the population we are considering as the population which is the, I think, the main population we have got here. Generational replacement level is affected by a variety of factors such as infant mortality rate, child mortality, child again and again, birth ratio, birth sex ratio, etc. In ancient times, due to the high premature death rate and short lifespan to ensure the generational change of population, each woman needed to have about 6 children on average. Due to the decrease in mortality rate, currently developed countries need women to have an average 2.1 children to maintain generational changes in population, while many developing countries need women to have an average of 2.5 to 3.3 children. This is he is quoting from I think this report. Now, Neener, any
Yeah.
comments? Yes.
Um, Not really, but you can see as he has pointed out that as the economy and the healthcare systems progress, the infant mortality rates keep dropping further and further, and with that, you'll see overall that there'll be lesser and lesser children dead in childbirth and other things.
Hmm. Okay. So, according to the United Nations World Population Outlook revised edition in 2010, the average infant mortality rate in developed countries was 6.4 percent or something, while the average infant mortality in developing countries was 50% and China was 22%. The mortality rate of girls under 5 years old in China was as high as 31%, which was far higher than the 7% of the developed countries. The mortality rate of the adolescents and the maternal mortality rates in China are also higher than those of the developed countries. In particular, China's birth sex ratio is much higher than that in developed countries, in the normal range of 102 to 106. The 1990s, 2000s, and 2010 census showed that the gender ratio of the population is 0 to 4 was as high as 111, 120, 191 respectively. Considering China's deformed sex ratio and pre and childbearing age mortality rates, China's uh, rep- generational replacement level should be around 2.3 to not 2.1. So the rate the China needs is 2.3 rather than the normal 2.1 because of uh, the the disparity between your sex ratio there. Due to the
Right, right,
existence of infertility, single DINK, double income, no children. So what happens is in Chinese society, it is very normal nowadays. Both the couple, the husband and wife, will be uh, doing the jobs, and there will be no children because nobody is there to take care of the children. Because the rest of the family, if they have any family to begin with, like grandparents, they will be living in villages. They will not be living with them.
right, right.
So a
And they
normal
would not have
society
like
should be a
brothers or sisters as well.
no. This is also a very strange phenomena in China because from 1980s, the one-child policy has been a disaster in the society because they don't know the what exactly are relations. They don't understand them. Now there are some exceptions, but for the majority of the time, they don't know what are the relatives because the only relative they have are their parents, and that's all. Very strange situation. They are not as emotionally active as the rest of the world.
Right, right,
Hmm. A normal society should be a mainstream family that has three children. Some families have two children, some families have four to or five children, and some families have only one children. If mainstream in the sense ki middle class families or the rich family, both of those, because those are the ones that will decide your the trends. If your rich families have more children, the middle class will follow them, and middle class the uh, middle class is very important for if the because most of the children comes from the middle class family that are able to sustain themselves. The poor will follow the example of middle class. So middle class and your rich families have to have some kind of a balance of children. So they have to have more than two children. Then only the hierarchy will be following them. Now, if mainstream families do not allow are willing to have or cannot afford to raise three children, it means that the country has lost its ability to develop sustainably. This is very important because nowadays, even in developed countries, the same situation is there. They are not able to sustain children. Even in I think Europe, this is the case. Yes, Nina.
yes, yes. It becomes expensive as well in overall if you like capitalize on the whole system. So, for example, things like if you don't have family, you'd be sent to daycare, right? That becomes
Yes.
a cost. And in Chinese society, it's like a little bit like Indian society where aside from school, they do a lot of tuition and all that as well. That they always think about the cost and all.
Hmm. Even the societal structure is very different in the Western context. So the whatever the children need, they have to buy it from somewhere else. It is like the materialism is at peak there. Everything has to be bought, like your diapers. They have to be bought. It's not like you can reuse your like we had. They
Yeah,
cannot
like
develop the
clothes.
reusable diapers. They have to be one use diaper, so they have to buy again and again. This is like the materialism is quite quite had gone quite high out there. Now, population is renewable resources like forests and grasslands and must be used reasonably to maintain renewable capabilities. Further rates below generational replacement levels are equivalent to predatory utilization of population resources. However, China's fertility rate was lower than generational replacement level after 1990s. So we can see the impacts of your one child policy even in early 90s, I think. Yeah, they had already crossed the replacement level. They had already gone below the replacement level in 1990s. But the children produced in 1980s were so their quantity was so much that they had carried away for 2 to 3 decades, and the people had not felt the change in the fertility level. I think the same case is with India also. We are seeing that the fertility is quite low. it has gone below the replacement level. Even in our neighborhoods, we will see that the most of the time the families will only have one children. They will not have more than one. The rarely we can see two children, and in extreme rare cases we see three children,
Right,
I think.
right.
Yes, this is a common occurrence. Even one child uh, is becoming a very expensive thing. Even so far, Indians can afford one child, but I don't think going by the trajectory we are going, we will be able to afford even one. However, China's fertility rate was lower than generational replacement level after 1990. The 2000 census showed that the fertility rate was only 1.22, which is quite low, considering the Chinese had a, I think three. They had a TFR of three, I think, in 1980s. Till 1980s, they had a TFR of three, I think, close to three. This is a quite sudden decline, even by
You
normal
can
standards.
you can read the whole thing at once, and then we can discuss the
Sure,
whole
sure.
thing together.
The 2005 1% population sample survey showed that the fertility rate was only 1.33. The 2010 the census once again confirmed that the average fertility rate from 1996 to 2010 was only about 1.4, of which it was only 1.181 in 2010. The long-term low fertility rate seriously threatens China's sustainable development and will have an unprecedented impact on China's economy, politics, society, culture, national defense, and national psychology. Hmm.
Is this the second chapter? I'm not able to hear you.
Yes. So the second chapter is here. Similarly, if the ultra low fertility rate of 1.18 in 2010, then China's population will begin to grow negatively in 2018 if we go by the data, with only 460 million people by 2100 and only 69 million by 2200. Now, the population growth was very slow in ancient times. Now, uh, any comments so far? Anybody?
So
Yes.
yeah, Nandita, you can also join, add your thoughts on this.
Hi, I just joined. So, population growth was very slow in ancient times. So, healthcare has been very important in this. Healthcare has improved the quality of life past World War II, and it has increased the population growth by a lot.
Hmm.
So, the whole cycle of the population in the society has been extended to higher levels.
So basically, people are living more than they are required, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Not
In general,
like
yes.
I would say like there's a term called dependent population. Okay,
Yes, yes, yes.
whoever is like population of children and elderly will be higher. That will put a burden on the working population. Like if they
Hmm.
are earning, then okay. Otherwise, they'll become a burden on the society.
Yes.
Like especially if they are taking pensions support, they'll need support nine from the government or the
Now,
working population.
yeah, yes. The problem is that the societal support that the elders and the children used to get that all of that has been shifted to the insurance, pensions, and private institutions. So the society has no responsibility for them. So this is another level of your the population problem,
True,
because if they
true.
will not, the society
Family
will not
system
take
has
care of
been,
them. Yes,
yeah.
if the family system collapses, the whole thing, the society will itself collapse after some time. Because
Hmm.
the family, if the family is not able to take care of the relatives, then who will take care of it, and for how long?
Yeah. The Chinese population boom has coincided with their, what, how you say, no, the revolution part, their cultural revolution part. So they had so many people as working for them when human capital was needed for them.
Yeah, in those times, in the cultural revolution and all, they were told to like break up the family and stuff. So a lot of the children would rebel against their parents and stuff. That that is the time when like they try to break the traditional norms. From that, you can see the result is that they had policies like one child policy and all.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more later in the next section. Abito, we are talking about population growth, no?
Yes, yes. So
You continue
now
that.
in this section, yes, he will compare the population growth in the ancient times. Now, nature will not. Wait a second. Are you getting background noise from me or not?
There's no background noise. You
No,
continue.
Yes, yes. So nature will not let trees grow into a sky, nor will it make people's population grow infinitely. Chinese sociologist Pan Guanten noticed a phenomena observed by ancient Feng Shui scientists. Wealth and nutrition cannot be prosperous. This is the, I think, same logic we had. In other words, the poorer, the more you are, the richer, the more you are, the richer, the more you are, the less you are born. So basically, the he's saying the poorer you are, the more in
So
number you are.
they,
Basically, yes.
so he's
The
saying
fewer
like
the
elites
population,
won't reproduce more than the poor people.
yes. So they want to concentrate their wealth, so they will reproduce less. So they don't want to pass on
Also, they'll
the
have
wealth
other things to focus
yes.
on. Uh,
That also, and the wealth itself gives some power in the society, no? So
mhm.
the rich will not want to divide their wealth. So
You
it,
want to
because if they divide
consolidate
it,
power.
it will reduce their power. Yes. So
True.
consolidation is also a reason behind that. Now, Mhm.
Uh,
the
but if
fewer
you
the
consider
population will be.
Indian history, like
Mhm.
this phenomenon would have been handled differently.
No,
So,
now here
because
the
of Hindu undivided family concept, the control of the family will be given to the eldest son, right? गद्दा होता है ना घर का. So the
so
power
now
usually,
here. Mhm.
Mhm. The power
Continue,
usually
continue.
stays in the family.
True, true.
You
Now
continue, continue. Chinese doesn't function like that.
the unique thing with the Indian thing was that the more the more the more family members you have, the more your power will be. So, like they will insert
Yeah,
themselves
yeah.
in different kinds of different power structures to increase their power. Okay. Now,
Indian
Indian
families
structure,
tend
it
to diversify their portfolio when they have more kids.
yes, they want options. So in other
Yeah, yeah.
societies, they want to consolidate because they don't want to risk that. So basically, what happens is Indian society want to minimize the risk in other way. They want so we want to minimize the risk by diversification. They want to minimize the risk by consolidation.
Hmm.
Now. Mhm. In China, rural fertility rates with lower living standards are always higher than those with the living higher living standards. Worldwide, fertility rates in wealthy developed countries are gradually declining, while populations in poor developing countries are growing rapidly. This has led to the rapid growing population in countries or regions such as India and Muslim areas, showing an upward trend where developed countries or regions have to introduce a large number of external immigrants due to insufficient manpower, and these immigrants from areas with lower living standards have slowly replaced and occupied the original dominant position of the locals. Now, it seems that there is an invisible hand that is regulating the population, and through this increase and decrease, it promotes the flow of social classes, the fall and rise of civilization. In ancient times, population was regulated through left hand, which is to say plague, war, famine, natural disasters, peace, disease, and other fierce means. In modern times, population regulation uh, is controlled through right hand. Contraceptions, high nurturing cost, low fertility intention, and high infertility rate. In ancient times, productivity was
He forgot to
backward, food
mention
sources.
working hours. Like working hours have
No,
reduced. Uh, like it also affects the population regulation. Like both, if both the parents are
yes,
working, they'll have less time for nurturing kids.
yes, it is also a reason. So, in ancient times, productivity was backward, food sources were limited, living conditions were harsh, lifespan was short, and humans were reproductively very slow. Were reproductive very slowly. Countless tribes have become extinct one after another. An entire human race has also reached the brink of extinction several times. With the development of productivity, wealth has accumulated and human civilizations has begun to emerge. The establishment of the marriage system regulates sexual and reproductive order, establishes man's property right over children, and also stimulates man's motivation to raise their offspring. The establishment of the filial piety cultural allows children to be rewarded and adds profit to the fire of the population development. However, in the era of agricultural civilization, the average life expectancy at birth was only about uh, 20 years old, and the life is rare in 70 years. Now, it seems that very common diseases such as dysentery, common infections, can be fatal at that time. Now, fractures that only require simple surgery may lead to a complete loss of labor at that time. Emperor Kangxi had a total of 21 princesses, gave birth to 55 children, and only 31 children survived to adulthood. Emperor Pinglong had 17 princesses and had 17 sons and 10 daughters, but 5 princesses and 5 princes died prematurely. Shunzi had 8 sons. Kangxi was chosen as his heir here because Kangxi had smallpox and was already resistant. The two wives of the Peter the Great of Tsarist Russia had 10 children in total, but only one son and two daughters had lived to adulthood. The only grandson, Peter II, died of smallpox at the age of 40. Many ordinary people's children have a lower survival rate, and sometimes none of them have dozen children. A plague and war were enough to destroy families that had been thriving for thousands of years. For example, the 30 years of the European War from 1618 to 1648 and the Black Death, Europe's population was reduced by half. In 1492, there was 50 to 60 million Indians in the Africa, but Columbus discovered the America. The population decreased by 90% due to the war, massacres, and infectious disease such as smallpox from Europe. This is interesting that he mentions massacres. In Chinese history, the population losses have been as high as more than 60% due to the wars and plagues. The population has dropped from 40 to 50 million to more than 10 million many times. During the spring and autumn period and the warring states period, the population was about 20 million and increased to more than 59 million in 280. The wars in the Eastern Han dynasty and Three Kingdoms caused a sharp decline in the population, and it restored to more than 16 million in 280 AD. Later, five barbarians invaded China and the population dropped sharply. After the prosperous era of the Shui and Tang dynasties, the population recovered to more than 52 million by 755 AD. However, after the Anshi rebellion, the population dropped again to more than 16 million by 760 AD. You can see the sudden decline and rising of the population here in just some years. That's quite interesting. The population of the Song dynasty recovered, but the Song Yuan War led to a sharp decline in the population. In 1403 AD, the population reached more than 66 million. The plague in the late Ming dynasty and the war in the late Ming and early Qing dynasty led to a sharp decline in the population. Due to the difficulty of population reproduction, many very glorious civilizations in ancient times were interrupted because of the inability to continue the population. In the past, there were at least tens of thousands of surnames in China, but most of the surnames and countless ethnic groups have gradually become extinct. Now, the surviving families have reached the danger of surnames of the sun have almost gone, and they are as endless as lines in history. According to
So I've
economic
also heard about
historian,
this, the whole thing of
uh,
civilization, some civilizations becoming extinct because of the population decline. So somewhere I've also heard like Roman civilization started importing the immigrants because of this issue, but that also didn't help them.
so the which one was it? The one
Yeah,
the
in
one
the
that was based
Western
in the
Roman
Turkey,
Empire,
the
Western
the
Roman
Turkey
Empire.
one, Indian Turkey one.
Oh, that's the Eastern one, right?
Uh,
Eastern
which
Roman Empire.
one was it? No, no, the
Eastern
before that, the Mitras or which one was it?
Ottoman,
The horse one,
right? Step.
Hittites.
where we have which one?
Hittites.
No, 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 Indian one.
Hittites, the where we have found that horse manual. Which
Kushanas.
one? The one?
Kushanas.
No,
Kushanas.
no, Kishan is not the
Sorry, no,
one, the
I
Levant one.
understood. He's talking about those ones in Syria, Iraq,
Step.
that side.
Yes, yes, the Syria one,
Steppe
the Syria
thingy.
one. Yeah, so uh, that one declined on its own. Uh, first they had
Mm-hmm.
initially they had invasions, some invasions they had faced, but because of the distractions done by the invasions, the whole population had collapsed because of the uh, large famines that followed that. The invasions were not the main
Mm-hmm.
reasons there. The famines
Mm-hmm.
that came after, but practically collapsed the civilizations there. The Hittite one, the Mitanni one, the Mitannis, and the other one, uh, and the
Mm-hmm.
which one was it? The Iraq one, Mesopotamia, I think. Yes. So all
So
these
when they're
the Middle
talking about,
Eastern ones really collapsed from these famines only. Population decline.
hmm, so in Chinese civilization, like states, divided states that were never one before. How many like centuries they were, you know, without war? Th-
About
They were
five to ten
constantly
Regularly, they
warring at
centuries
have
each other. Huh?
generally.
wars and civil wars.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
So
were
it was never
constant.
peaceful.
So what used to happen was the so there will come a dynasty which will unite all the region. Then
Mm-hmm.
the dynasty will be facing internal rebellions. The internal rebellions will
Mm-hmm.
lead to some fragmentation. When the fragmentation and internal rebellions happen, all so whatever the population that had grown during the whole united the period when the China was united, that will be collapsed. They all will be killed during the rebellions, because remember, in India and China, generally the armies used to be 30 to 40,000. You rarely see an
Hmm.
army in Europe which will be more than 15,000. Rarely. Now here
They're like
generally,
small
and now remember,
dominions.
these, yeah, even the small kingdom of, let's say, a desert region like Rajasthan used to have 30,000 soldiers generally. Now, just imagine what type of armies would have been there when the kingdoms of the whole Ganga region, the Ganga Plains region, they would have easily have armies of 50 to 60,000 easily. They can, and that is also when the kingdoms used to be very small. As the kingdom would have a city and the surrounding areas. Even then,
Hmm.
they would have been able to field 50,000 soldiers easily. The same case will be with China, but they are, rather than the smaller sections like India, the city section, they will have a larger area, but population wise, it will not be that large. Huh. So, according to economic historian Angus Madison, the global population in 180 was only 225 million, of which China was 59 million. By 1080, the global population increased to
Then the other half
267
would be
million,
Indian,
and
na?
by 15,
Like 59 million would be Chinese,
India
matlab?
would have been 45,
Okay,
approximately
1000
45
maybe.
to 50 million. Yes, 45, roughly 40
But
to
like,
45
do we
millions.
know were we
Because
in like a decline or were we in boom then population boom?
we don't know. There is
Hmm.
also one caveat here, because we don't know the area they are counting as India. Which one they are counting?
True.
Are they counting the continent? Are they counting
Hmm.
Afghanistan in it? Are they counting Khorasan region, the Khotan region, which is the Xinjiang, the Tibetan, and the
Hmm.
Myanmar? Which part they are counting as India? We don't know. So there is that
Yeah.
problem also. By 1500, it only increased to 434 million. The sparse population has not formed a scale advantage or density advantage. Technological progress is very slow, and there is no major change in the quality of life. Based on the 1990 international dollar, the global per capita in 180, 1080, and 1500 AD was only for 67, uh, for 467, 45 billion, and 56 billion, respectively. I think 46 billion or something that is. Yes, 46,
Uh,
46.17
while you read this, let
billion.
me just take out that document because it might have references to India. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Uh, Now we have got chapter 1, section 3, modern population explosion. Only after 1500 years did the world population begin to grow rapidly, from 440 million in 1500 to 56 million in 1600. So this all comes after the discovery of, I think, microscope or something. We have discovered cell or thing thereabout. So
Which one?
600 million in
The
700,
population growth?
1 billion. Which one? Yes, yes. I think the because the medicine
No,
helped the help
we
in
didn't have
having
microscope.
more people.
Like we had vaccines before the microscope.
The vaccines we would have. I think that the
Uh,
population explosion that happened down here, just the 1800 to 1900. This is the population, because in 80 years we have gone about five. We have added 500 million.
maybe agriculture also,
That was
like
because of
mechanization of
industrial
agriculture,
revolution.
industrial revolution,
Hmm.
early industrial revolution,
Yes.
industrial production of
Now,
food.
was there industrial production of food in 1800?
Yeah, yeah.
What were
1820,
they producing?
they had started. Like they had started the potatoes.
Okay, okay. One
potatoes,
second.
and the industrial production of bread has like they started in Europe because they couldn't grow anything in winter, no?
So let's continue. Mm. 1 billion in 1820 and 1.5 billion in 1900. Then it reached 2 billion in 1927, 3 billion in 1960, 4 billion in 1975, 5 billion in 1987, and 6 billion in 1999, 7 billion in 2011. Now you can see why the Americans were so worried about the population thing. In just the span of 20 to 30 years, we had added to 2 billion people, 3 billion people, basically. Now, what caused the modern population explosion? First, food growth. Second, life expectancy is extended. Columbus discovered the Americas in 1496, 92, which promoted the high yield crops widely cultivated for thousands of years to the world. Nearly 30 species of American crops introduced include corn, potato, sweet potato, jackrabbit, cassava, pumpkin, peanuts, sunflowers, peppers, tomatoes, beans, lima beans, western apples, pineapples, shore, guava, pears, cashew nuts, cocoa, American ginseng, papaya, and upland cotton. The yields of potato and corn, potato, corn, and sweet potato is many times higher than of the traditional wheat, rice, barley, oats, and sorghum in Eurasia. Sweet potatoes can
This
collect
is
thousands of
where the
kilograms per acre,
carbohydrates
which
in
is
the food
several times less
increased.
than. Yes, yes. Cotton, corn growth is very now this the overplantation of this also leads to famine, like the great famines in 90s,
Hmm.
early 19th century. Growing
Hmm.
1,000 is very profitable, and these crops do not compete with the grains for land, and any barren beside sand field can grow. They march toward mountains, big hills, big greens, hills, river, beaches, and land. Land was fully utilized to support human production. These crops can also form a harvest of off-seasons along with other crops such as wheat, and thereby improving land use. Corn and potato are now the largest and the fourth largest food crops in the world, respectively. The emergence of potato has made up for the food storage and cereal harvest. Scientists call it European potato, but it is the main food crop in Europe. In Europe, at the time, a single acre of potato field by a cow could support the family. Ireland's population 1500 and Ireland's population in 1500 and 1 million in. I don't think it is okay. What is it?
1 million in millions, no? Your voice is breaking, Shikhar. Your voice is breaking.
I think he left. Now he's back.
Yeah. So the four plants that changed the world uh, were highly
Not.
uh, high in carbohydrates
Hello.
and could be stored for a long time. Hello,
आवाज
Shikhar.
आ रही है?
Yeah,
I think network problem.
yeah.
So there will be the population in Ireland has rapidly increased to 1.93 million in 1700, 7.1 million in 1820, and 8.5 million in 1850. From 1845 to 1847, a sudden plant blight spread across Ireland. The potato production was greatly reduced. In just 2 years, more than 1 million people died of hunger, and the disease caused millions of Irish people to move to England, North America, or Australia. It is estimated that between 1845 and 1925, about 5 million Irish immigrated to the United States. According to US Census Bureau in 1990, there were 37.73 million Irish Scottish mixed race population of 5.62 million. Several US presidents are Irish. Now we have got some names: Jackson, McKinley, Kennedy, Nixon, Reagan, Clinton. According to Canadian demographic data, the Canadian Irish population in 2006 was 4.35 million. Australia and New Zealand have millions of Irish. In 2010, Ireland still had a population of 4.48 million. That is to say, in 1600, the 1 million Irish people now have 40 to 50 million descendants. In addition to American crops, the synthesis and the promotion of fertilizers have also greatly increased grain production. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are the three elements of fertilizer. In 1838, British Squire Ross used sulfuric acid to treat phosphorus ores to make phosphorus fertilizers, becoming the world's first chemical fertilizer. In 1840, German scientist chemist Lichtman, Lichtman published the book Application of Chemistry in Agriculture and uh, uh, Philosophy, yeah, Psychology, Physiology, which established the theory of nutrition and return of plant minerals, laying the theoretical foundation for the invention and the application of chemical fertilizers. Lee Bixby also invented potassium fertilizer in 1950. Modern population explosion. Next section. Any comments?
No, no, continue. It's very interesting though.
Yeah, you can continue the full thing, then we can talk about it.
Hmm. Unlike the phosphorus and potassium that can be recycled from the soil, nitrogen is mainly synthesized from the air by replenishing it with rainwater, and partly relies on nitrogen fixation by rhizobacteria, a legume crop. Before nine, Before the 20th century, the source of nitrogen fertilizer needed for crops was very limited. At that time, the nitrogen fertilizer used in agriculture mainly came from byproducts of organic matter such as human and animal manure. With the development of agriculture production, the increasing population of the earth, the number of natural nitrogen compounds is increasingly unavailable to meet the needs of crop growth. The nitrogen in the air is inexhaustible, and uh, Germany's population grew rapidly back then, with a very few colonies divided up, and food must be self-sufficient. German chemists proposed the idea of asking for nitrogen fertilizer from the air. In 1910, Badenoline Soda Ash Company built the world's first synthetic ammonia factory, creating an important chapter in the history of human science. Currently, more than 90% of the world's nitrogen fertilizers are produced from synthetic ammonia. Agricultural science and technology has made great progress in 20th century. The world average yield per moo of grain, moo is your unit in Chinese to measure the grains, increased from 95 kg in 1961 to 34 kg in 2009. The modern population explosion should be largely attributed to humans' successful choke on the left hand that controlled the population. The plague, Black Death, smallpox, typhoid, dysentery, plague, typhoid, etc., that once raging were effectively controlled and their physical fitness increasing uh, after food increased, the mortality rate decreased and their lifespan was extended. What is particularly worth mentioning is the elimination of smallpox and the invention of penicillin. Smallpox is called a accomplice of death because of its rapid epidemic and extremely high mortality rate, generally up to 25, sometimes 40 to 50%. Even if the patient does not die, permanent numb scars will be left on his face and body and may even blindness. In 1796, British doctor Edward Jenner invented vaccination for smallpox. By 1801, the terminology for vaccination of vaccinated vaccination had been promoted in many European countries and was introduced to China in the mid 19th century. Smallpox inoculation has greatly increased the average life expectancy of humans from around 20 years old to 40 years old. In 1928, British microbiologist Fleming in 1942, American pharmaceutical companies have begun mass production of penicillin. The emergence of antibiotics represented by penicillin have saved countless patients infected by the bacteria. The average life expectancy of humans have been extended from 40 to 60 years. Coupled with the progress made in the prevention and control of cardiovascular disease since 1970s, the life expectancy worldwide rose to 69 years and 78 years in developed countries. The mortality
But if
rate
you
caused
notice
by
something,
external factors has been reduced and
the
hmm,
Shikhar, if you notice something, the vaccine was created 20 years back, World War Two. It was not even used in World War One. It was only mass produced after World War Two.
Is there a reason for that?
I mean, America was involved in World War Two more than the first one.
Okay, okay.
नेट का प्रॉब्लम मुझे लग रहा है मैं अगर मेरा लाइव जो आवाज अब नहीं आए तो बता देना मैं
Sure, sure,
वापस
sure.
जॉइन
तुम पढ़ो.
रीजॉइन कर लूंगा
हाँ हाँ.
Um,
मोटा
the document isn't visible yet.
mortality rate
नहीं
caused by
दिख रहा है.
external
Hmm.
factors
Voice is breaking.
रीजॉइन करता है
Shekhar? I think we can't hear you.
अब ठीक है हेलो हेलो
हाँ, अब आ
Yeah,
रहा है.
yeah.
ठीक है so the mortality rate caused by external factors has been reduced ठीक है Hmm. And the extension of lifespan now depends more on the human being. If cancer and cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases that determine life span can be overcome, then the average lifespan of human being can be extended. But considering the law of cell division, most scientists believe that we are slowly approaching the limit of human longevity. The United Nations predict the average lifespan at birth worldwide will be extended to 81 years by 2100. If medical services are too focused on prolonging life, it will inevitably conflict with the medical services used to quickly restore their labor capacity, and it will reduce the ability to raise children, aggravate the crisis of aging. American crops to the Qing dynasty. According to the official information, China's population during the Ming dynasty was once exceeded 66 million. However, the drought in the late Ming dynasty led to several droughts and the grain production decreased. Famine, plague, peasant uprisings, and the population declined sharply in the Ming and the Qing wars. Hmm. The population grew rapidly in the early Qing dynasty. The Qing ruler dynasty rulers paid great attention to the population reproduction and proposed the population idea that those who govern the country focus on the land, on the people of the land. And wealth is not enough to be happy, but more people are happy. Kangxi attached great importance to grain production and personally cultivated new early mature rice seeds, promoted continuous crop double season rice in the south, and promoted rice planting to the north of the Great Wall. According to volume 43 of the records of the saint ancestor of the Qing dynasty, Emperor Kangxi also ordered that was strictly prohibited to abandon babies. Anyone who is poor and cannot raise children by the people, or who is pregnant with the owner of the wet nurse and abandons his son, will be good at ensuring that he has a long-term care. Those who abandon or do not raise are strictly prohibited. Kangxi invested huge amount of money to control the Yellow River and which was cleared to manage the canal. Over the 30 years, he achieved great results in the agriculture but Qing dynasty also adopted a series of policies
Your
aimed
voice
at
is breaking again a bit.
war and
Shaker, for some time I'll read.
you can read them.
You just keep scrolling the document. All right.
You don't need to keep reading. What do we do?
So, according to volume
We can just
43 of
end
the
here then.
records, yeah,
Any comments?
your voice was gone for a bit.
Yeah. So we can end here for today, I think. My connection is not good.
Or else I can continue reading. You just scroll down as I read. Is that fine?
You can read them.
Yeah. So,
Sure,
the
sure.
Qing dynasty also adopted a series of policies to attract refugees, to reward land reclamation, military and civilians to vigorously settle land reclamation, rename land, permanent ban or land enclosure, amend the law of fugitives, light donations, and poor taxes. In the 51st year of Kangxi of the Qing dynasty, 1712 AD, the tax amount was fixed according to the number reported in various places last year, and then the population will be bred and the tax will never be increased. In the first year of Yongshan, 1723 AD, and the spreading of taxes into land was gradually implemented. Land tax were used as a target of land tax. Okay, I think some translation error. And all cap taxes were abolished without adding silver, which greatly promoted population development. Perhaps due to climate and other reasons, the increase in Europe's population is mainly attributed to potatoes, while China is a higher yield corn and sweet potatoes. Currently, China's sweet potato production accounts for 80% of the world's output. Corn was introduced to Guangxi and other places during the Jiajing period of the Ming dynasty, only decades after Columbus discovered the Americas, and was introduced to Hunan and Sichuan in the middle of the Kangxi period of the Qing dynasty. It achieved unprecedented development in Sichuan, so it was named Shushu and later promoted nationwide. Sweet potatoes were introduced to our country around 1593 during the Wanli period of the Ming dynasty. The promotion technology for sweet potatoes was mature in the late Ming Dynasty, but the main planting areas were limited to a few places such as Fujian. After the political situation of the Qing dynasty stabilized, the central and local governments actively promoted these high yield crops. Emperor Qianlong especially liked to eat sweet potatoes and also issued an edict to promote sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes became an important food crop in China at that time. For example, Fujian, the sweet potato, half of the people in the province. I think that's a book name. Then, yeah, that's that. Agricultural technology has been greatly improved, and the reseeding index has also been greatly improved, and a large number of agricultural books have been published. The area of cultivated land continues to increase. According to Wang Shiduo's statement in 1851, millet and sorghum have been planted on the top of the mountain. There are already continental fields in the rivers. Old forests have been built in the river, and deep seedling caves have been opened. You can scroll down. Yeah, so did Nandi or Aryan invader have any thoughts on this?
I mean, the agricultural did have a lot of impact because of the storage and the improvement in industrialization of food technology. It has provided the population a constant source of nutrition so that they don't have to worry about the day-to-day food and they can focus on other things in life. So that has improved their, I will say, quality of life. That led to population boom.
इसमें मतलब वो याद है मुझे, हम उसकी डिस्कस कर रहे थे, क्या नाम था उसका, जेरेड डायमंड्स और समथिंग कुछ था ना ऑथर, जो बोल रहा था कि सब कुछ मिडिल ईस्ट में ही जो आपका जो प्लांट्स है ना, ये क्रॉप्स है, सारे वहीं से डेवलप हुए हैं, तो फार्मिंग वहीं से डेवलप हुई है, तो इसी वजह से जो है यूरोपियन जो है इसलिए डोमिनेट किया था, यूरोपियंस ने जो है अमेरिकाज को, क्योंकि अमेरिकाज के पास में जो है एग्रीकल्चर है उनका बराबर डेवलप नहीं हुआ था। फिर फूड क्रॉप्स क्या थे, बहुत ही अजीब लग रहा है ये। ठीक है, ठीक है।
हाँ,
आप बताओ
सभी को
कोई
नमस्कार।
पूछना चाहे। हुँ,
अ, इस पर मेरे कुछ विचार है।
हाँ, हाँ।
जैसे एग्रीकल्चर आने के बाद क्या है ना कि आपको लोगों की भी आवश्यकता अधिक पड़ती है परिवार में। जैसे आपको खेती-बाड़ी करनी है, तो आपको सदस्य अधिक चाहिए जो आपकी सहायता कर सके खेती-बाड़ी करने में। अ, जैसे पिता को चाहिए 3-4 पुत्र हो जो मेरे साथ खेती-बाड़ी करने आएँ, पिता के 3-4 भाई हो जो एक खेत को सँभाले। तो उससे भी एग्रीकल्चर के साथ-साथ जनसंख्या बढ़ती है और खाने का जो स्रोत है, वो तो स्थिर होता ही है, तो खाने-पीने का अभाव नहीं रहता है। तो इसीलिए भी जनसंख्या जब कृषि जैसे-जैसे बढ़ता है, वैसे जनसंख्या बढ़ती है। और इस विषय पर यदि भारत के संदर्भ में आपको और जानना है, तो कृपया संजीव सान्याल को सुनिए। उन्होंने बहुत चर्चा की इस पर, उन्होंने ही इस चर्चा को बढ़ावा दिया है। कि यहाँ पर घटती जनसंख्या आ रही है भारत में ये स्थिति और हमारी स्थिति और बुरी होगी क्योंकि चीन के पास या विकसित देशों के पास फिर भी पैसा है कि वो संभाल सकते हैं अपने वृद्ध जनसंख्या को। चीन भी थोड़ा बहुत संभाल सकता है, भारत कैसे संभालेगा यदि युवा जनसंख्या नहीं होगी? इसके विषय में नहीं सोचा। फिर एक संजीव सान्याल ने बहुत अच्छी बात की थी कि भारत में ये जो कन्या भ्रूण हत्या होती है, फीमेल फीटसाइड, इसको कैसे उकसाया गया कुछ विदेशी संचालित एनजीओ द्वारा और इस पर उन्होंने एक पुस्तक का भी नाम लिखा है जिसका नाम है अननेचुरल सिलेक्शन। मैंने कमेंट पे भी पोस्ट किया था, आप देख सकते हैं। अननेचुरल सिलेक्शन कोई महिला ऑथर ने लिखा कि कैसे बहुत ही चरणबद्ध रूप से, बहुत ही प्रक्रियाबद्ध रूप से ऐसी नीतियां भारत में, ऐसे टेक्नोलॉजीज लाए गए भारत में जो जेंडर डिटर्मिनेशन को सहज बनाए, जिससे फीमेल फीटिसाइड की प्रवृत्ति बढ़े। तो वो भी किया गया है। और मैं एक और बात कहने वाला था, आप लोग अपने विचार रख सकते हैं, मैं थोड़ी देर में सोच के आपको बताता हूँ मेरे मन में और एक बात।
तो इस पे भी काफी चर्चा
Can
होती है
you
कि पॉपुलेशन।
add this slide that I've added to the screen?
Actually, I'm not hosting
Like who?
Hana.
So this is the source the book mentions. So the whole population there graphs starts from 1820, and then there's nothing before that. Logically they don't have any data before that. So they say
Yeah.
China always had more population than India, but the growth rate was always higher in India. But when you compare this GDP of the same population, per capita GDP of India would always be higher. Let me go to the per capita GDP. So in 1820 to 1870, China's per capita GDP dropped, while India's per capita GDP increased in early 1900s. It was
Yeah.
almost like 545, and here everything changed. Almost 700 reached till when they were declining. So this is still 1947. They were still in the 562, but their population was still booming compared to us, and their GDP was going down. Per capita GDP was also down. But once we got the independence, our per capita GDP was still going faster, but the rate was less than what China did. China's per capita GDP increases at a higher level, like exponential level, I would say, because by the
Yeah, you can see
1970s
when
we
they
were almost
reached
equal. Yeah,
they reached 1000 in
almost.
1979.
Yeah, see, almost 1972 they became equal. 1971 to 1974 they became equal to per capita GDP, and in the 80s they boomed like anything before we took over. Here, all the changes came from in these years, last 3 decades.
तो इस पर मेरा एक प्रश्न है कि चीन एक
Uh,
कम्युनिस्ट कंट्री होकर भी उतना सोशलिस्ट नहीं था जितना भारत था नेहरू के
True,
अधीन।
because after Mao died, the second Deng Ping, उसका नाम ऐसा आता है Deng Xiaoping.
Dong
तो
Xiaoping.
he was very pro American.
ये
So he got
डंग
secret deals.
शाओपिंग कब से कब तक था?
I think he was there for like around 8 to 9 years, where he could
Oh,
effectively.
he was
I
there
mean,
for
he was
more
there
than
since
15
the
years.
beginning.
वो
He was
वो
there
तो
since the
लेट
beginning. He
एटीज
was
और अर्ली
he was
लेट
part of
एटीज
the.
और अर्ली
1978.
90s में था।
In
1978
1978 they
So
liberalized
which
underage.
particularly in some of these northwest,
So
we
he
all
was
know that
always part of
even now, but is,
how you say
still very recently, we
Politburo.
had a serious problem
लेट्स
with
वॉच दिस वीडियो।
gender
Sure,
selective
sure.
abortion, huh? And because of which, particularly in some of these northwestern states, there was a serious imbalance in the number of boys being born, much in excess of the number of girls, right? Yeah, you all know this. And India has been much criticized for this. Haryana, particularly Punjab, Western UP. This is basically the zone where this happens. And basically, we are told this is because of our inborn cultural patriarchy, evil Indian customs, etc. Now, let me tell you the actual origin of this. Back in the 1960s, 50s, and 60s, there were a series of articles in Western journals talking about how non-white populations were growing very fast, and then they would overwhelm the world. So it was purely, I mean, quite offensively racist. They didn't realize we would read them today, but they are quite blatant about the fact that their main problem is that non-white populations are growing very fast. So it was decided by various departments of that time, geopolitical powers of that time, that something had to be done about this, because otherwise the world would be taken over by these brown and looking people. So a huge effort was done. Let us intervene in these countries to have population control. So how were they going to do this? So they decided that, look, the number of men does not actually matter. It is the number of women that matters, because they are you can have only one man and you can still have population growth if the adequate number of women are there. So therefore, we need to do something about reducing the number of girls being born. So here came the thought that what you can do is to weaponize son preference in traditional societies. Now, all traditional societies have son preference, not nothing new. Even the West, before they developed, had a preference for sons, which is, they are needed for work, they are needed for war, and so on. So there is a son preference. But it's quite different from what happened next. So basically, they came to India and they sold this idea to the Indian authorities in the late 60s and 70s. Of course, in the emergency, you had Nazbandi, etc. But the thing in which they really focused was something quite different. They basically, these whole bunch of these Rockefeller, Ford, even some UN agencies were involved in this, and they basically imported with their funding ultrasound machines. And they basically said that, look, this is great. Why don't you allow parents to actually choose their child? So now you're weaponizing a son preference, and they know why they're doing this. Yeah. Then the first several thousand of these sex selection abortions happened in AIMS. The doctors who carried out those operations with full support from these international agencies, they are still alive. And this is all well documented. And then in the late 70s and early 80s, they began to spread this message. So they began to, these so-called these NGOs got into their cars. In those days, SUVs were quite rare. So they were the only people who used to have these large SUVs, and they're white-colored SUVs. From Lodi Road, they drove out in different directions. And if you then look at where the gender imbalances were the worst, after that, in the 80s, 90s, and so on,
So they would go
it
north.
was along those highways leading out of Lodi Road. Now, all of this is very well documented. There's a book called Unnatural Selection by a Pulitzer-winning journalist called Mara Wesenthal. You can get her book on Amazon. All of this is well documented, that this whole sex selection operation was funded by these agencies in India. And these ultrasounds were brought in, the doctors were trained, the operations actually happened in AIMS. And when it began to cause this imbalance in birth, who was blamed? Indian culture. Okay. And then the same agencies now have entire departments telling us how, we should have better XYZ for women. So what did they manage to do? They were, first of all, manipulating our population. They were creating a market for their ultrasound machines. So the same thing happens when you...
तो जैसा कि संजीव सन्याल जी ने कहा, ये केवल एक पक्ष है पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल का। ऐसे कई सारे पॉलिसीज और वो सब लिए गए पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल के लिए इंडिया में। बहुत सारी चालें चली गई वहाँ।
But still, it
इंडिया में
didn't work,
क्या
na,
है,
to the extent they
it
wanted.
did work, it worked,
Mhm.
it worked, that's the point, it worked। इंडिया में क्योंकि चाइना के जैसे डायरेक्टली वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी नहीं कर सकते थे, तो इन्होंने क्या किया, लॉज के माध्यम से फिर पॉलिसीज है जैसे कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्स प्रमोट करना, बर्थ कंट्रोल टेक्निक्स प्रमोट करना, एज ऑफ मैरिज को इंक्रीज करने के लिए लोग लगातार चेष्टा कर रहे हैं। अबॉर्शन की जो टाइमलाइन है उसको इंक्रीज करने की चेष्टा कर रहे हैं। एजुकेशन की टाइम लिमिट बढ़ाने की चेष्टा कर रहे हैं जिससे लोग देर से सेटल हो लाइफ में, जिससे बच्चे कम पैदा करें। ये सब पॉलिसीज हो रही, ये एक नहीं है। और इसमें जो मैं एंटी मैन लॉस की बात करता हूँ वो भी मुझे लगता है वो भी इसी के उद्देश्य से किया जा रहा है कि आप महिला और पुरुष में झगड़ा करा दो जिससे वो विवाह नहीं करे और पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन, तो वो भी है। फिर मैं अभी पढ़ रहा था तो मुझे पता चला कि महिलाओं को ऐसा इनकरेज करना है कि विवाह के 2 साल बाद ही बच्चे को जन्म दे, ऐसा उनको इनकरेज करना है। ठीक है, दो बच्चे में अंतर 3 साल का होना चाहिए क्योंकि हेल्थ रीजन है, वो एक पॉइंट है। पर शादी के 2 साल बाद ही बच्चे को जन्म क्यों देना, ये मुझे समझ में नहीं आया। पी गुरुस के श्री अय्यर थे, उन्होंने कहा था क्या हमें ईयर्स ऑफ एजुकेशन ईयर्स ऑफ एजुकेशन रिड्यूस करना चाहिए या नहीं। ये जो 12+3+2 है उसको रिड्यूस करके 12+3 नहीं कर देना चाहिए या 10+3+2 नहीं कर देना चाहिए जिससे लोग जल्दी एजुकेट करके वर्कफोर्स में जाए और जल्दी शादी करें, सेटल डाउन। तो ये सब बहुत सारे पॉलिसीज है पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन में और कंट्रोल में, क्योंकि इंडिया में आप डायरेक्टली चाइना जैसा नहीं कर सकते कि इम्पोज कर दिया वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी। Am I audible?
Eh, Anybody wants to see
Yes,
what's going on in Chinese social media right now? I got some access to their YouTube.
अरे वहां पे एक डिवोर्स लॉ बहुत बड़ा बदलाव किया है तो उसको लेके बहुत झमेला है चाइना में। वो
वहां पे
देखिएगा कि
इंटरनली
हाँ, चाइना में पहले क्या था, जो वाइफ थी उसको पति का 50% प्रॉपर्टी का 50% ऐसे ही मिल जाता था, तो वो चाइनीज गवर्नमेंट ने हटा दिया क्योंकि बहुत सारी महिलाएं उसका मिसयूज करने लगी कि शादी करेंगे पति का संपत्ति लेके चले जाएंगे, उसको चीट करके या उस पे झूठा आरोप लगाकर, जो कि आजकल इंडिया में भी बहुत भयंकर रूप से हो रहा है। तो वहां पे डिवोर्स लॉ चेंज कर दिया कि नहीं, पत्नी को 50% नहीं मिलेगा यदि उसका नाम नहीं है प्रॉपर्टी, ऐसा कुछ। तो सब देश इस पर सोच रहे, पर हमारा इंडिया ही है जो अभी भी 20 साल पहले चल रहा है और वो अभी भी पुराने ढंग से ही सोच रहा है कि विमेन को और राइट्स दो, विमेन को और राइट्स दो। मैं विमेन को इक्वल राइट्स देने के विरुद्ध नहीं हूँ, पर जिस प्रकार के राइट्स दिए जा रहे हैं ना, वो राइट्स नहीं है, वो इंटाइटलमेंट है। तो ये भी एक कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर है पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन। एनीवे, आप कुछ बोल रहे थे, आप कुछ दिखाना चाह रहे थे।
हाँ, वो नंदी रात तो चले गए, दिखाना चाह रहे थे वो चले गए। भूपेंद्र, एनी थॉट्स ऑन दिस?
Yeah, hi, Neelav. Are you able, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Uh, yes. So I think we got to know a lot of other things today because I think these aims, experiment, and other things were not too many people known about it. So I think we all should appreciate RN invaders information regarding this. So this is something important. And yes, so but I wanted to discuss something more, and that is something all you can discuss. So maybe I not have time to do that today. Uh, that I think there was some discussion happening in previous podcasts with CSK as well regarding a lot of people link population decline with industrialization, with urbanization, and other things. So lack of agricultural services sector, decline in manufacturing. But that data is very scanty, and that data itself is not very like satisfactory in terms of finding out the primary two or three or five reasons where the population decline is happening actually. So, and there are now a lot of studies are there on the social structure, breakdown of social structure, the family structure, uh, people's perception towards family, how and also individualism, rise of individualism post World War II. So it's a complicated issue. We cannot say that okay, this is the only. There are multiple factors which contribute to this, but one of the most important factors which are actually missed is the factor of families, the joint family or the traditional conservative family structure on which the society was built upon till the advent of post Second World War industrial things
Yeah,
which
yeah.
happened. So I think those, and now there is a research which is going on around. So if you see, uh, and it's if you see, correct, there are millions people died in Second World War, and countries had to import labor from outside to actually get their countries rebuilt. So from that perspective, and I think people would have heard of the name of Francis Fukuyama. Francis Fukuyama was, I think, he was a sociologist. I might be wrong, and he coined the term "the end of history," where the Second World War,
Yeah, yeah.
Industrial Revolution created a kind of a
After end of
ultimate,
Cold War, he called it end of history because only America will and America and American liberalism will rule. That was his
exactly,
idea.
exactly. So if you see from that perspective, that and correct, this overpopulation kind of thing was something which really gained momentum in terms of policies, decisions, and how it happened. It happened after Second World War, post liberalization thing. So there are a lot of things which are there. So which are there on the policy front, and it has doesn't have a lot of relationship with lack of food or any other aspect of like it was a kind of a narrative. Like if you see the
Uh,
kind of movies were made post Second World War regarding population, uh, there is not a lot of basis on that part. Yes,
may I add something here? A small
yeah,
point.
yeah, mm,
One thing is that this leftist idea of any social structure being oppressive, especially family being oppressive and patriarchal, this idea was heavily promoted. That marriage is patriarchal and oppressive, family is oppressive, आपको सारे बंधनों से मुक्ति पाना है, आपके माता पिता आप पर अत्याचार कर रहे हैं, आपको अपने सपने पूरे नहीं करने दे रहे, ये सब क्या है? परिवार को तोड़ने के हथकंडे अपनाना है। तो ये एक पॉइंट है और परिवार के बिना बच्चे नहीं पल सकते। सबसे बड़ी बात है कि अभी क्या इनकरेज किया जा रहा है इंडिविजुअलिज्म के नाम पर कि आप अपनी मनमानी कीजिए। तो आप सब अब यदि मनमानी करेंगे तो बच्चे कैसे पलेंगे? आप त्याग जब तक नहीं करेंगे बच्चे के हित के लिए या बड़े परिवार के हित के लिए तब तक बच्चे नहीं पल सकते। और आजकल लोग अपने बूढ़ा बूढ़े माता-पिता के साथ भी नहीं रहना चाहते। तो बहुत बार दादा-दादी लोग भी बच्चे को बड़ा करने में बहुत बड़ी भूमिका निभाते थे, तो वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा इश्यू है। और एक बात जिस पे मैं सबका ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहता हूँ कि विचार करें कि इज़राइल ने अपने फर्टिलिटी रेट्स कैसे ऊपर रखे, एक डेवलप्ड कंट्री होने के बाद। अब हो सकता है लोग बोले कि छोटा देश है, उसका मॉडल स्केल करना पॉसिबल नहीं है। फिर भी उसका मॉडल क्या है जो वो पूरे विश्व में इकलौता एक्सेप्शन है? ये तो हम सोचे, ये हमें सोचना चाहिए कि छोटे देशों में भी कोई देश नहीं है जो इजरायली पॉपुलेशन जितना हो और डेवलप्ड हो उसके जितना, जिसका पॉपुलेशन मतलब जिसका फर्टिलिटी रेट इजराइल जैसा है। कोई देश नहीं डेवलप कंट्रीज में, छोटा हो या बड़ा,
तो
तो
ये
इजराइल का कैसे फर्टिलिटी रेट हाई? उन्होंने क्या
इसराइल को
पॉलिसीज
लेके
अपनाई?
आर्गुमेंट है कि जो उनके बस ऑर्थोडॉक्स कम्युनिटी का फर्टिलिटी रेट ज्यादा है और बाकी का कम है।
नहीं नहीं, ये सच नहीं है। अमेरिकन सेक्युलर कंट्री कम्युनिटी जो है, अमेरिका में जो सेक्युलर कम्युनिटी है, उस उसमें जितना फर्टिलिटी रेट्स है और इजराइल का जो सेक्युलर कम्युनिटी है उसमें जितना फर्टिलिटी रेट्स है उसमें भी डिफरेंस है। इनफैक्ट जो इजराइल में सेक्युलर कम्युनिटी है, मतलब सेक्युलर जो लोग हैं, जो लोग रिलीजियस नहीं है, उनमें भी फर्टिलिटी रेट्स 2 है। जबकि दूसरे देशों में जो सेक्युलर या एथिस्ट टाइप की मानसिकता के लोग होते हैं उसमें 1.2 1.1 ऐसा चलेगा। तो उसमें भी अंतर है इसराइल। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली ऑर्थोडॉक्स कम्युनिटी के कारण, उनमें बच्चों को जन्म देने की मानसिकता ज्यादा है।
Yes, anybody wants to comment on this by Ritwik?
इस पे तो वो है कि क्लैन स्ट्रक्चर जो था वो क्रिश्चियनिटी ने डिस्ट्रॉय किया था यूरोप में। तो उस टाइम से ही कोई क्लैंस या ट्राइबल स्ट्रक्चर था नहीं काफी टाइम से।
Uh, yeah, but I don't think there is a lot of argument ke okay, only American money is going to sustain the Israeli population. That is a misnomer.
I think
Uh,
this income factor in population increase or decrease is lesser than some of the policies, because गरीब देशों में जनसंख्या ज्यादा गति से बढ़ रही और धनी देशों में अधिक गति से घट रही है। तो पैसे से यदि पॉपुलेशन बढ़ता है तो फिर पैसे वाले देशों में ही क्यों प्रजनन दर कम है? तो ये क्या पैसे के कारण हो रहा है? मैं पूरी तरह इससे सहमत नहीं हूँ।
yeah, correct. It is like but if money was a primary factor, okay, because of money, population is increasing, then other countries are not suffering. See, the European countries have the one of the best social security structure in the whole world. So you get everything, but still the population is declining. So it somewhere down the line, it has to do with the social structure, uh, individualism being promoted, and also in terms of metaphysical desire. So what is called by Rene Girard. Uh,
Yeah, I
that
think it has to do something with social sciences. What kind of social sciences are we talking? Sorry,
Mhm,
maybe I cut
mhm.
you off.
No. You can speak. But the thing is, the metaphysical desire which is there and the narrative created, correct? What you see today is that there has been a promotion via cinema, via TV, via talks, and everybody talking about too many people is bad. So when you are grow up on this kind of propaganda being fed to you from child itself, so you will not even think about uh, having babies as a society itself. But there are actually experiments which show okay, if you live in a community, example would be correct. Nina, correct. We have the Mormons. Nina, Mormons.
Mormons, yeah, in
Mormon.
Yeah.
US.
So the Mormon community in US have they almost have 10 kids family, and
They used to
the
have
kids,
multiple wives also, like polygamy.
yeah, multiple wives as well, polygamy as well, and the children were raised by the whole community itself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that is how. Correct. So, and in general also, if you even if you go back 50 years ago, okay, the children were raised by the community, not by the parents, actually. So even if you see in 60s Kolkata, right, you had the pada, and within the pada, all the kids, every neighbor in that pada would would tell the kid what to do, help the kids, okay, learn
Uh,
something. If they are doing bad things, they would be scolded by an unknown person, but he would be their neighbor. So generally, overall in society, kids were the responsibility of the greater society. It was not
Yeah,
okay.
Pada or Kaku Kakima. That was
Exactly.
very correct.
Correct.
so one
And
more thing I
even
think is like, other than greater
go ahead.
society, also like when people have more siblings, the older siblings will take care of their younger siblings. That itself is community.
And
That is
if
true.
you remember, and also if you remember that, like, we read the book, but we read the book Anandamath. And in the Anandamath book, if you remember, that the husband, wife, and the child, right? Uh, there was they were very poor, but they had the sense of humanity in them to actually take care of each other. That is how generally humans live. We take care of each other, even if we don't know them. That is how default human behavior. How the behavior has changed over the years. That we don't consider even our parents worthy of taking care of. But 100 years ago, we had people who would take care of the people who were unknown to them, just because of their human values. So that also needs to be taken into account. And how the decline happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot has to do with this ideology being promoted that parents are oppressive, that parents control you, and the fact that they took care of you and raised you, it was their responsibility, so you don't have to reciprocate or be grateful to them, or you don't have to take care of them when they are old. So this kind of mindset has also crept into the young generation that yeah, parents are toxic. I'm not saying parents don't do anything wrong or they don't make mistakes, but this mindset that parents are toxic. Almost everyone is saying my father is toxic, my mother is toxic. I think that has also
It's very
harmed a
lazy.
lot.
Uh, It's very lazy actually.
Actually, the thing is, people have found excuses to run from their responsibilities because people don't want to take care of their aging parents, so they will have to find a reason for it. So the excuse for it is they are toxic. Simple. So that is one thing. So all these things are happening, and it's creating more fissures within the family. Plus, this uh, uh, excessive emphasis on privacy and individualism. That is, I want to keep things private. Now, yes, privacy is important, but too much of privacy breaks human connection. जैसे हमारे भारत में और अमेरिका में आपको अंतर मिलेगा कि हम किसी भी नए व्यक्ति से अनजान व्यक्ति से मिलते हैं ना भारत में, तो हम सबसे पहले क्या पूछते हैं, आपके परिवार में कौन कौन है, आपके माता पिता ठीक है या नहीं, आपके बच्चे पत्नी सब स्वस्थ है या नहीं। हमारे बात करने का ढंग ही है कि हम परिवार के इर्द गिर्द प्रश्न पूछते हैं। अब अमेरिका में या पश्चिमी देश में आप ये प्रश्न पूछेंगे तो उसको बोला जाएगा इन्वेजन ऑफ प्राइवेसी। तो आपका ह्यूमन बॉन्डिंग भी नहीं होता क्योंकि आप कोई भावनाओं से जुड़े हुए प्रश्न ही नहीं कर सकते जो पारिवारिक हो, जो आपकी आत्मीयता बढ़ाए। तो ये भी बहुत बड़ा इशू लगता है मुझे तो, जो मनुष्य को मनुष्य से काट रहा है क्योंकि भावना ही नहीं जुड़ रही। तो एक ये जो एक्सेसिव इम्फेसिस ऑन प्राइवेसी है ना, कि अरे मेरा सीक्रेट किसी को पता नहीं चलना चाहिए, तो आप कनेक्ट कैसे करेंगे यदि इतने प्राइवेसी में आप घुस जाएंगे? ये भी है।
Okay, I think we do not have a lot of questions for today, so we can wrap up. So, Nina, you can close the session if everything is all done.
Yeah. So yeah, today's discussion was mainly about Chinese population and how its decline will cause a change in society and stuff. And we also discussed related issues like decline in our society and how, for example, narratives were set to cause a decline, like how Sanjeev Sanyal was pointing out, and so on. So yeah, that was today's discussion, and we can close it off at this.
Okay, so thank you. I think tomorrow again you have one reading session for the review. So yeah, Nina, go ahead. You can close the session for the day.
Yeah. So namaste to everyone. Jai Shri Ram.